So Nikki Haley drew what was the largest crowd of her primary campaign in her home state of South Carolina. It was 2,500 people. It's not a huge crowd, but it was, again, the largest crowd she's had for a town hall last night. And she's battling for that #2 spot in the race against Ron DeSantis, also campaigning in South Carolina this week. Now, both of them, Haley and DeSantis, still way behind Donald Trump in the polls, but Haley's making her case against the former president.
I believe President Trump was the right president at the right time. But the truth is, rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. You know I'm right. Chaos follows him.
To the panel, Melik Abdul is a Republican strategist, radio talk show host, and Navin Nayak is president and executive director of the Center for American Progress Action Fund. Melik, you want to take this first? Can she catch him? Can she make it a real race against Donald Trump?
I think that Nikki Haley probably represents the strongest contender out of the Republican field when it comes to Donald Trump. I said this time last year when many people were promoting Ron DeSantis as the heir apparent, I thought that Nikki Haley represented the greatest threat. I don't think that she's actually threatening in the sense that Nikki Haley has a chance of beating Donald Trump in the primary because there are no numbers to suggest that she can best him in the primary. But I do believe that for many people, she represents a bit of stability, establishment, and comfort that people would have with a Republican who has a worldview like hers, and many of which they are definitely anti-Donald Trump. So she seems to have gotten some of that crew, too.
Well, she does. She's trying to consolidate it, so it's just her versus him. That's the only way the numbers would even come close to working. Navin, she got some money today. Well, I don't know if it'll matter, but it's for, this Koch money. Charles Koch and his PAC putting out a statement today about Nikki Haley. This is the Americans for Prosperity Action endorsement that says, and we'll put it up here as I'll ask you how important you think it is, Navin. In sharp contrast to recent elections that were dominated by the negative baggage of Donald Trump, in which good candidates lost races that should have been won, Nikki Haley at the top of the ticket would boost candidates up and down the ballot, winning the key independent and moderate voters Trump has no chance to win. Navin, pick up on that and whether it scares Democrats.
Well, listen, at this point, I don't think it scares Democrats because I agree with Melik that she really hasn't shown that she's anywhere near actually beating Trump. What she is showing is that she's closer to actually being in a two-way race with him, although still has some ways to go. And I think you actually showed the contrast there, Connell, between her approach to this and the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers are actually making a real argument against Donald Trump, talking about negative baggage. I think it's not enough for her to just consolidate the anti-Trump vote. She's actually got to make a case and win over Trump voters, and she hasn't done that yet. Starting
a little bit on the attack. It'll be interesting, it'll be a week from tomorrow when they're all on the NewsNation debate stage about whether she chooses, to your point, to go after the former president more as opposed to the others. For now, Melik, it's, looking at news like, can you take DeSantis and assume he's going to drop out? What about Christie, who you would assume goes after similar Republican voters? He, over the weekend, was on saying, he's staying in the race. But there was this Washington Post analysis that said how Christie could help Haley if he dropped out. And the basic idea of it was, listen, they're going after the same candidates, kind of the middle-of-the-road, Trump-skeptical voters. So if Christie dropped out, Melik, what does that do, if anything, to the race?
Well, if you think about what Christie said when he first entered the race, his main goal was to be the attack dog or to prosecute the case against Donald Trump. So him moving or being in support of Nikki Haley dropping out of the race, well, obviously him representing the anti-Trump resistance on the Republican right would naturally flow to Nikki Haley. Still, the remaining question is, what happens in this primary? Well, Donald Trump is leading in Iowa. Donald Trump is leading in New Hampshire. But even if he loses in both of those states, Donald Trump can win South Carolina and wipe out the wins or the gains made by whomever wins Iowa or New Hampshire. South Carolina is where the actually is really happening. And Donald Trump seems poised to win South Carolina.
At this point, right. And, if it's one-on-one, Trump and Haley, we'll see. And again, the debate a week from tomorrow. We'll be down in Alabama for that. We'll see what comes of it. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.